Sahil, a lot going on in DC and a lot distracting the White House, what with the James Comey book and all, but there needs to be a decision on Syria made at some point soon. The president has promised it. Will it come today?
That is probably the single biggest topic of conversation in Washington, Vonnie, what the president is going to do about Syria in the wake of him suggesting that this, what appears to be a chemical weapons attack by Bashar al-Assad or his regime, cannot go unanswered. Now, the president is caught between two competing imperatives here. Number one, his kind of red line that this, that this must be responded to, such an attack. But also, he very recently, only last week, called for pulling U.S. military forces out of Syria and wanted to draw down United States involvement in that war. So it's very hard to reconcile those two things. He has a campaign promise that he wants to fulfill, which is ending Middle East wars and focusing on rebuilding the United States. But at the same time, he doesn't want to appear to be a shrinking violet on the Syria issue with chemical weapons, being used in Syria. So it's anybody's guess what he'll do. The president has been back and forth. We do know that he's talking to American allies in the United Kingdom and France to come up with a coordinated response.
Yes, and this as new personnel are just getting comfortable, really, in the administration. I'm thinking John Bolton. We've just had hearings for the National Security Advisor position and so on. Sahil, what kind of advice is he getting? Who's advising him?
Very much, Mr. President. And,
well, if you think of someone like John Bolton, he's very much in favor of regime change, whether it's in Syria, whether it is in North Korea, whether it is in Iran. He has a strain of hawkishness about him that I'm sure is going to be in the president's ear. Now, at the same time, John Bolton is not one who has been particularly emphatic about, about promoting democracy in parts of the world where it is least prevalent. His goal is to root out United States threats and to show American power in places like that. So that's one piece of advice he's going to be getting. But look, the president takes his own counsel. He listens to himself at the end of the day. And what he really wants to do, it is clear, is diminish United States involvement in the Middle East, because that's something that plays well on segments of both the right and the left. And he feels like he would be fulfilling a campaign promise if he does that. Now, in the short term, that does not comport with what he wants to do in terms of teaching Assad a lesson that chemical weapons will not simply be allowed to be used without a response.